Typically on this channel, we go to the Fortnite community themselves to get their opinions, but today, it's not just the Fortnite community. We're going to be taking a look at Fortnite YouTubers. I asked some Fortnite YouTubers to give us their hottest Fortnite take, and we're going to be reacting to them today. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with many YouTube channels. So, of course, at this point on the channel, I am very grateful to have the opportunity to start connecting with a bunch of other YouTubers. If you happen to be a YouTuber, shoot me a message if you'd like to be part of these. We just had some, like, honestly, randomly choiced YouTubers over here. Some people wanted in, some people didn't, and I just asked a small group of people. So if any other YouTuber out there would like to be part of these videos, send me a message. I would love to absolutely include you. I also don't want to, I know everybody has their own thing going on too, so I don't want to start, bugging people to constantly get their opinions for stuff, right? With that being said, though, guys, let's get started with the hottest take from LilSmurf.
My hottest Fortnite take is probably that there's not a single bad season of Fortnite. There are 100% seasons that are better than others, but to say that there's ever been a truly bad season of Fortnite, I don't really think that's the case. Throughout every single Fortnite season, I have always had fun, even if there are bad aspects about the season, like Primal, which is my least favorite season. I still had some fun with some aspects. I liked the idea of the crafting mechanic. The execution is where it sort of fell flat for me. I liked the map. I thought it was pretty good. What I'm saying is Fortnite is going to have its good seasons and Fortnite is going to have its weaker seasons, but I don't think there's ever been a truly bad season of Fortnite.
I have always agreed with this. Every single Fortnite season, I have had an absolute blast playing. Now, for the most hated Fortnite seasons, I would say that it's definitely Fortnite Wilds, Fortnite Wrecked, and Fortnite Primal. Just off the top of my head, I'm sure there's something else out there, but you can even find things within them that are fun. I personally think the core game of Fortnite, the Battle Royale that it is really fun. You have the shotgun meta, the AR, the building mechanic, everything about it is great. Each season just kind of changes it up, and yeah, some seasons have been better than other seasons, but I really do agree with that Fortnite's never had a bad season. I know that's probably going to get flamed in the comment section down below, but that is definitely a hot take. Let's hear from LOOTSTATION now, guys.
Alright, so first, my hottest Fortnite take is Chapter 6, Season 1 was the best season of all Fortnite. I don't even have to explain myself, okay? It was just the best season. It was my favorite season. How about that? It was my favorite season.
That is certainly a hot take. Chapter 6 Season 1 being the greatest season of all time. I actually think that people are really underrating Chapter 6 Season 1 right now because so many people got burnt out of Lawless and people aren't liking, depending on when you're watching this video right now, it's Chapter 6 Mini Season 1, the Star Wars season. A lot of people hate this season. A lot of people really didn't like Lawless. They got bored of it quickly. And a lot of the Fortnite community is kind of taking those opinions and attributing them over to Chapter 6 Season 1, which at the time, the Fortnite community seemed to really enjoy. And I personally thought it was a great season. The map, the updates, the loot pool, everything about it, even the storyline, all of it was really nice, and I had a ton of fun playing with it. The Godzilla event was phenomenal, and we all know that LOOTSTATION, the biggest MonsterVerse fan of all time, definitely loved the season because of that. But honestly, I do think that when looking at all of the other Fortnite seasons, you can say that this is, it's tough to say objectively, but I want to say in comparing it to other seasons, I feel like it might objectively be up there, at the very least, a mid-tier season. I do disagree with it being the greatest season ever. Off the top of my head, I might have to move around with this. I would give Chapter 6 Season 1 a solid A tier. It was a really good season, but it's not my favorite, and I don't know if anybody else would agree with LOOTSTATION on that one. Now, guys, let's hear from the Mr. JOY.
I was pretty split on my hottest take. I also don't want to step on anyone's toes, so I'm trying to avoid the obvious. But here's one. Actually, I had two. The first one was going to be Reload is essentially the elite mode. But the one I'm going with is Fortnite should probably just stop with LTMs. The community has been yearning for limited time modes to make a real comeback, and Epic has given us a little taste here and there. We got the Floor is Lava, Getaway, 50-50, and well, they've all been a bit shitty. Like the Floor is Lava just straight up forgot how builds work in that mode. The material regen was weak, and by endgame, you're pretty much relying on faith. It feels like they expected everyone to go full send off spawn and get rid of the majority of teams and take their mats. Because I and others just kept running out of mats every single time. Pacing was a huge issue, and that just killed any hype I really had for it. Getaway was a shell of its former self too. They offered some weird team modes, and they also gave it a ranked mode. I almost have to apologize to Clen at this point because this isn't even a hot take anymore. It's just a goddamn take. So yes, Clen, they should get rid of LTMs.
Jay, that's crazy, but I do understand where you're coming from, okay? To bring up Floor is Lava and Getaway, I get that they didn't hit nearly the same. The Getaway and the Floor is Lava were completely different, but the Getaway it's tough to play the Getaway specifically with the skill base of the player base right now. Floor is Lava was a completely different and horrible LTM. While I still enjoyed it, it was horrible compared to when it was in the game in Chapter 1 and at points in Chapter 2. The game, they changed the way that the mats worked. I know that they've experimented with the loot pool here and there, but bullet drop was horrible to actually fight enemies from across the map. Like, the Chapter 5 issue ruined the entirety of Floor is Lava for me. Now, the problem is they could release so many great LTMs. If they were to release the regular ones, like they had maybe Sniper Shootout or Steady Storm, like those regular LTMs like we saw back in the day, those would still succeed, and I do believe that Epic Games should continue bringing back regular and rotational LTMs. Keep them as is, quit updating them, maybe some here and there. Like, could you imagine if we brought back Operation Knockout or Shockwave, how much of a hit that would be? There are particular LTMs like the Getaway, that's definitely one that doesn't really fit too much within Fortnite anymore, but I still would have fun with it personally. There's just a couple of them, but the vast majority of LTMs, if they cycled them in, brought them back, updated them to fit the map, not updated them like they updated the Floor is Lava, then I think that LTMs would be great. But I do understand why Epic Games isn't working with LTMs anymore, and I do understand that point that Jay made. With that being said, though, guys, let's continue on to Klarque Gaming. I'm laughing a little bit because I'm having an authentic reaction to all these. I haven't listened to them yet, and Klarque titled his file Yapfest, so we'll see what we're going to hear about here.
All right, so Clint asked me for my biggest Fortnite hot take, and I've got a few. Now, look, we're not going to go over the rundown of everything, okay? If you've been subscribed to me for any time or been on our live streams where Clint and I have thought together, you've definitely heard quite a few controversial opinions. And you guys know I'm not afraid to stray away from controversy. However, I think one of my hottest takes, outside of Battle Pass exclusivity, is probably that Fortnite has never had a bad season. Now, let me make something clear. We know that there are seasons that are just not as much fun as others. There are definitely some weaker ones. There are some ones that I have personally not enjoyed that much. Would I ever want to go back to Chapter 5, for example, as a whole? No, I wouldn't. That's my least favorite chapter of all time. But I had a lot of fun in Chapter 5. Doesn't mean... Now, just because I have a lot of fun with something doesn't mean that I have to always want to go back to that thing or necessarily re-experience that thing in its entirety. And look, to be fair, who knows? In a couple of years, my perspective on it could change. I actually have gone on record and said that I wouldn't mind a wrecked season to come back. Actually, let me rephrase that. I actually have gone on record and said that I would not mind for... I actually have gone on record and said I would not mind Wreck to come back in some form of LTM. Why is it that I think that Fortnite's never had a bad season? The reason is because the game itself, the core gameplay, regardless of which iteration you play, if that's your first time playing Fortnite, you'll typically fall in love with the game. The game is very complete. It's very smooth. And sure, as experienced players, we have our issues. We can see some of the bigger, more glaring flaws. But for the new person, the person that Fortnite is trying to onboard, that's trying to get them a part of this BR culture, this Fortnite experience, they're going to have a great time. I'll give you a prime example. I have a friend that I used to work with at my last job. So before I became a full-time content creator, I had this job for 3 years. During that time, I was actually trying to convince him to jump on and play Fortnite, and he absolutely refused. This is my boy, Chris. Shout out to him. I think he's like 40 years old. He's got a son now. And Chris, this is before he had his son, before he got married. Chris was like, bro, I'm never playing that game. I'm going to play Call of Duty. I'm going to play Minecraft, but I'm not playing Fortnite. The game, this looks stupid. That's what he told me straight up. He's like, I'm just not playing that. Fast forward to about, 4 or 5 months ago. This man contacts me out the blue and says, hey, so one of my friends convinced me to download Fortnite, and I can't get off the game now. Bro's using my creator code, having the time of his life, enjoying himself on the game, and he's now asking me to play. This is a prime example of what I'm talking about. This man is about 40 years old, with a child and a wife, refused to play Fortnite. Loves playing video games, refused to play Fortnite. But the moment he got on the game, he can't get off, and it's his new favorite game to the point where he's now buying battle passes and cosmetics. He started playing in Chapter 6, Season 1, where the Typhoon Blade was in the game. And even though we, as more experienced Fortnite players, don't enjoy that, for the casual new player, they do, because the game is fun.
Now, unfortunately, I had to cut Klarque off there because he tied it into the next part. I asked all of these YouTubers for a few things to give me for different videos. Like, this one is just hot takes, and they're going to get into something else. And I'm sorry, Klarque, if you happen to be watching this video. That was a good way that you tied it into the next part, but we're going to save that for the other video, and I'm going to make sure to remind people. And honestly, I should have mentioned it to all of those YouTubers, but how crazy is that? LilSmurf, Klarque, and I all agree, never had a bad season. I actually never thought about it that way when you're comparing it to new players, because I've known people who have gotten into Fortnite within Chapter 5, Chapter 4, Chapter 6, and they do like the game. I never thought of that to be a reason why Fortnite's never had a bad season, because everybody who starts coming to the game, a lot of people, they typically stick around with the game, and then depending on when you started the game, if you're watching this video, Klarque is completely right. How many of you have special memories and that first Fortnite season that you played is one of your favorite, if not your favorite season of all time? I'm the weird one. I started in Chapter 1, Season 3, and that's not nearly my favorite season. It's up there, but I'm the weird one. Most people feel that way. That's a really, really good way to put it. I never really thought about that. So, Klarque, thank you for sharing. I'm sorry that I had to cut you off at that last part, but let's continue on to Bourquechop's hottest Fortnite take.
My hottest Fortnite take is that I think augments should come back. I thought it made the gameplay way more diverse, and you never actually know what you're going to be going up against, so it just kept everything like more fresh and interesting.
Guys, I have been talking about this since Chapter 4 ended. I will never understand why a lot of players who play this game are perfectly fine with augments being out of the game. I love when fights are diversified. All of a sudden, somebody could have an extra jump. Somebody could have a quick run or like infinite sprint whenever they shoot an SMG or something like that. There are so many different variables that augments brought to the game. It made each fight fresh. It wasn't just a shotgun in an SMG fight, put up a wall, get the wall. There was so much more to it, and it wasn't overpowered. It was a balanced and perfect way to keep freshness within Fortnite. Excuse me if you can hear my notification. I completely agree with that from Bourquechop. Let's continue on to what CEO had to say.
Okay, hi, I'm CEO, and my biggest Fortnite hot take is that Chapter 5, Season 1 is hella overrated.
Okay, this is certainly a time to start talking about Chapter 5, Season 1 being hella overrated, because all of a sudden, we're seeing all the nostalgia posts for it right now. Now, I know that throughout Chapter 5, excuse me, there was a lot of people who really enjoyed Season 1, and I get that. For me, I do find myself agreeing with CEO, because Chapter 5 Season 1, either that or Chapter 5 Season 4, is literally my least favorite Fortnite season of all time. I hated the Chapter 5 mechanics. I hated the bullet drop. I hated the attachments. I hated and usually I like the agent theme, but I didn't like this particular spin on the agent theme. I definitely think it's overrated, but I know that most people won't agree with me in saying it's one of the worst seasons in Fortnite history. I agree with CEO, and I think that we're going to hear a little bit of backlash on that one, because we've reached that point now where people are feeling nostalgic. You know how many nostalgia edits I'm seeing for Chapter 5 Season 1 now? I'm like, guys, come on. I know there's people out there that loved it, but it definitely was overrated. Now, guys, before we continue with the hottest Fortnite takes, let me stop you for just a second. With these videos, as you probably know, I have been advertising my supporter creator code. I ask that if you do not have a code that you are currently using in the item shop, please consider using my code Clen. I'm grinding on YouTube as hard as I possibly can in order to provide for my family. We're talking about having another kid already. I am very excited for that, and life is expensive, so the fact that you guys have been using my code has been a huge help to me. Thank you very, very much. Additionally, all of these creators, please go support them. Their links will be in the description and the pinned comment down below. Let's continue on to what TediusX had to say.
Hello Clen's viewers, my name's TediusX and these are my Fortnite opinions. Okay, for my biggest Fortnite hot take, I'd have to say the second half of Chapter 2 is way better than the first half. I know Season 5, Season 6 and Season 8 are all very hated. Season 6 is kind of fair. Sorry Clen, I know you like that one. But Season 5... I think it really helped the game developing its identity with the collabs. Season 7, just incredible in every single regard. And Season 8, I think really pushed the theme. Even though the map was a little bit weak, it very much felt like the end of a chapter. And that's kind of a feeling we're missing quite a bit now with the yearly chapters. They don't feel as impactful, so I really appreciated that time of the game.
You know what? The entirety of Chapter 2 is great, right? In my opinion, the entirety of Chapter 2 is great. It's well known that to the average player base, like if you take everybody and put their thoughts down below, Prime Fortnite was Chapter 2 Season 2 to Chapter 2 Season 4. Those seasons were phenomenal, and I agree with that. But I find myself, I have to agree with Tedious on this one. From Chapter 2 Season 5 to Chapter 2 Season 8, I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed Chapter 2 Season 1 to Chapter 2 Season 4. And that's not to say, man, like, they had some banger seasons within there. Most of those seasons are probably like A tier, S tier, or SS tier at the very least. I loved all of them, but I agree with that. Chapter 2 Season 5 was a great season gameplay-wise, and they did a good job kind of cementing Fortnite's future, as Tedious did mention. Chapter 2 Season 6, I get the hate behind that one, and I know Tedious mentioned that, but I do like Chapter 2 Season 6. Chapter 2 Season 7 is my favorite season of all time. Everything about it was perfect. Chapter 2 Season 8, like Tedious said, it was the perfect ending to a chapter. We had the live event. We had a very, very, very solid game in general. A fun event, or excuse me, like Fortnitemares event, I mean, but another fun live event in general. There was so much going on within those later seasons. I can find myself agreeing with that, but to be honest with you, if you disagreed with it and said the first half of Chapter 2 was better, I'd hear you out on that too. Like, Chapter 2 was just so amazing in general. That's a good hot take. Now, guys, let's continue on over to TuneSpider and his hottest Fortnite take.
So first, I just want to say thank you, Clen, for letting me be a part of this video. I really, really appreciate it. This is awesome. But starting with, if I could make one change to Fortnite, what would it be? I would 100% remove stamina from the game. I already have to deal with stamina in real life when I exercise or go for runs. I don't want to have to deal with it in a make-believe video game where it's a battle royale fighting against 99 other people. Getting eliminated because you ran out of stamina is one of the most infuriating things in the game, in my opinion. Plus, there is so much mobility already where it's so easy for people to catch you all the time. At this point, I think we should just be able to tactical sprint 24/7.
You know what? That's never occurred to me. And I don't know if I agree with that. There are things that I like about stamina that you have to like be careful about what you're using, but at the same time, what TuneSpider said is accurate. There's already enough mobility that your stamina won't make a difference, and a lot of people do like the fact that like you can run pretty fast, and people liked it whenever any movement changes was there where you can move faster, any vehicles that allow you to travel across the map. You know, that might be what's best for Fortnite. Plus, it's honestly a good point. I know like it was funny to listen to, but it was actually a good point. I have to deal with stamina in real life. I don't want to deal with it in a make-believe battle royale. That's a good point. I've never thought about that before, and he kind of won me over. But let's see, guys, if PassionFortMovies can win me over as well.
Hey there, Clen. PassionFortMovies here. You know, I gotta be honest. My hottest Fortnite take, and I know I've said this a lot, actually, it's Primal. For me, it's one of the most underrated seasons, and I know why a lot of people don't like it. I get it. I've heard it over the years. The weapons were trash, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But for me, it was the season that I had the most memories in. The weapons were all right. The bows were elite, though. I loved the bows. I loved the color of the map. I loved the vibe of the map. The POIs were great, especially the Spire. The Spire was like my drop spot that season. I loved that POI. A lot of people hated it, but for me, I don't get why. But at the same time, I kind of get it. But I really did enjoy that season. And it was really good towards the end, especially with the build-up with all the UFO stuff. So that was like so much hype. And of course, the season after that invasion was obviously one of the greatest seasons. But just the build-up from the Primal to the invasion season was so well done. It was so good with the crop circles and all that. So, yeah, and it was just one of those seasons that during that time I had the most memories with. So, yeah, it's just, I love that Primal vibe in Fortnite. I think they do it very well.
If you guys have been following the channel, you probably know that I was a Primal enjoyer as well, but like Passion said, I do understand why people didn't like Chapter 2 Season 6, but regardless, dude, that is a hot take to say that, okay? What I didn't like the color of the map. I didn't like most of the POIs. I loved the Spire, though. I loved it. Passion mentioned that he didn't know why people didn't like the Spire. The biggest complaint about the Spire was it was weird to place builds. I didn't care about that at all. The POI was gorgeous. It was fun to fight against, and I loved literally having this giant spiral tower. It made for another unique fight. I loved the bows. I thought they were great, but the fact that you were almost forced to craft and use these makeshift weapons that were objectively the worst weapons in Fortnite history, I get why nobody wanted to play it with that. If they scrapped all of those, maybe it would have been a little bit better, but the event was great at the beginning. The battle pass was phenomenal. The story was great. Later in the gameplay, and not like actually finding parts to make your bows and stuff like that, the later half of the game was very fun. I still had fun either way, but you get my point. And the build up to invasion was also a very, very fun time for the Fortnite community. All of a sudden, these abductions coming, that is certainly a hot take, but I do agree with it. With that being said, though, guys, let's continue on over to Karlitoes Kaizen.
Hottest Fortnite take. And I have two hot takes, but I think I'm gonna go with the positive one because I don't like being negative. So my hottest Fortnite take is that Chapter 6 could be the best year Fortnite has ever had. And hear me out on this. Chapter 6 Season 1. Or even, let's start with Remix the finale. Amazing live event, and the way it brought us into Chapter 6 was phenomenal. Then, Chapter 6 Season 1. Dare I say, top 3 season of all time. 10 out of 10. I still love it. The Godzilla stuff, the storyline, the map, the loot pool, the map changes, it was great, and the live event was awesome as well. We also got Ballistic in Season 1, which I could see being one of my favorite modes in this game, which it already actually is, and it's starting to get updates too, so there's that. They also did some stuff for Festival with Hatsune Miku. That was a pretty funny season. And overall, I just think Chapter 6 Season 1 is one of the best seasons of all time. And now we have Lawless, which I think is a great season in concept. And the execution is pretty good too. But I would say the timing is very bad, because we just had Remix, and this is the 4th heist season. So the timing is bad, but the season itself is amazing, and the storyline is still cooking. They brought Midas back. He actually has story relevance, and you know, I couldn't be happier. And next season, it's the Star Wars season, which I am pretty excited for. And I am really hyped to see what they cook up next for Chapter 6, dude. So that's my hottest Fortnite take. Chapter 6 could be the best chapter and the best year for Fortnite overall.
Now, that is definitely another hot take. It depends how these next few seasons go, because while people aren't enjoying the Star Wars season right now, if the rest of Chapter 6 is a banger, then you know what? It could be one of the best times in Fortnite, but they really, really have to kick it into high gear. I personally like the season that we're playing right now, and again, if you happen to be watching this video in another season, it's the Star Wars season right now. I love it. I think it's great. I liked Lawless as well. Chapter 6 Season 1 was one of the peak seasons of Fortnite. It really depends on how they end up finishing this off, but I don't know. I don't think that the rest of the community will agree, because a lot of people got tired of Lawless, and a lot of people don't like the season that we're in right now. So, that's situational from person to person, right? That's a toughie, but again, certainly a hot take. Now, guys, let's hear what ZeroBR had to say.
What's up, guys? I've got the craziest takes. Maybe not, but I think some of y'all will like them. Some of y'all might hate them, but I already sent them to Clen, so I'm just gonna kind of read off what I wrote, and y'all will get the gist of it. So let's go. For the hottest Fortnite take, I think OG Fortnite is the best. Not many people will argue with that, at least not much. But I would like it if the game fully went back to how it was in Chapter 1. Meaning BR, LTMs, creative, the storyline, and that's it. You know, not a bunch of like thousands of creative maps and everything like that. Just the old UI, all that stuff. Maybe with UEFN with actual moderation, though. The map would be the same, the graphics and all of that. I'm not going to say whether we should rerun all of the OG seasons again, or just go on to future chapters while keeping Fortnite. Keeping the map dynamic and things like that. I made a whole video on this before, not self-promoting, guys. I'm not saying to go watch, I'm just mentioning it. And discussed every aspect that makes Fortnite. If we keep those in the game, it will be the best. Meaning, like I said, the graphics, the map being dynamic. And I'll get more into what makes Fortnite, but that's definitely an important part of this, which is why I'm kind of yapping here, but I gotta say it. I can't say the game will have more players as a result of this, or will bring the people back permanently, meaning like OG players, but the game would be overall better. I would be surprised if it doesn't also increase the performance of the game, but yeah, I'm not gonna like claim to know that. BTW, the Chapter 1 map does not have to be exactly how it was, but keeping what made it good would make the game better. Did the second reload map, the desert one, not hit the same as the original one, maybe even better for some people? It did, because it kept the aspects that make Fortnite. Like the map, the dynamicness of the map, the graphics on some level, and even the loot pool. Long story short, if the map is dynamic, also making each game feel like a story, which means like you drop, right? You go to your drop spot, feels unique, has character, you gotta loot up, every part of your game leads to that story. That's something I talked about in that video. The storyline is actually included, the graphics are the same, and I'm just gonna say this, what we have now is not a storyline. It's, as I put, a story, demented, annoying, and very weirdly dashed line. And good thematic seasons, the game would be good. At least I think it would do well, and I think it would do well. I think it would do well and be a lot higher quality.
I think that was the lengthiest Fortnite hot take I've ever heard in my entire life. But while Zero didn't want to self-promote, I'm all about self-promotion. Go check out ZeroBR. Again, guys, all of these YouTubers will be in the pinned comment description down below for you to go to check out. All of them are absolutely phenomenal. So, talking about OG Fortnite, like, staying as it was, I think people forget how unhappy everybody was with OG Fortnite, like, in the later seasons. And come on, like, let's be real. We're for Chapter 3, like, Chapter 1, Season 3, and Season 4, Season 5. That's what people talk about. Like, oh, if the game was like this forever, it'd be great. No, everybody would get bored of it. Everybody would get bored of it. Everybody wanted to get off the Chapter 1 map. Everybody was whining, crying, and moaning. I'm not saying that Zero, like, would be the person doing that. I'm saying I don't think that would be best for the game personally, but OG Fortnite in Chapter 1, with the way that Epic Games structured their game, I'm talking about, like he mentioned, like, the regular LTM rotations, just the one map, focusing on BR. I think that would make quite a few people happy, but you have to keep evolving Fortnite. That's the novelty of Fortnite. It's forever changing. So there was parts of that where I agreed and parts of that where I disagreed, but let's hear what StrawDesertHD has to say.
What do I think is my most personal hot take about the game? I personally feel like I'm the only person who misses any of the collectibles that we had in Fortnite. Like any of these hidden things that were around the island. One thing in particular that I missed the most was in Chapter 1, Season 9 with the fort bites. Now, don't get me wrong here. I understand a lot of people didn't like them by any means. And I like to think of it this way. We had a fun little challenge every single morning in Fortnite where we could solve puzzles, do tasks, and get collectibles and get XP. And unlock loading screens from getting all of them. I feel like not only did that give Fortnite more player time as a game, but it gave me as a player a reason to log on every single day and not feel like it was a chore, but feel like it was something exciting, something unique that we'd never had before. Like literally, there were so many puzzles that you could solve that were just like, wow, this is so unique. I've never seen this before. And I don't find myself having that feeling anymore with Fortnite, especially these days. I mean, having that reason to log on every single day and play is just a perfect way for them to bring more light to Fortnite in the current state that it's in. We need something unique. We need something fresh that's not the same gameplay mechanics over and over again. I mean, sure, a couple of guns here and there, yeah, that makes sense, but in the grand scheme of things, that it's the same thing over and over, and we've had that for years.
I totally agree with that. And I actually think that's something that a lot of people would also agree with, that particular hot take, but it's something that's kind of forgotten and something that nobody really talks about anymore. I don't really think that people hated the fort bites. What was great about it was optional, but it was something exciting to do. Like, you guys remember collecting the fort bites and then the online community coming together to try to figure out with each and every passing day what we were creating, what Jonesy was looking at. And the best part about it was we knew that Epic Games and Donald Mustard would have payoff. Like, having Bunker Jonesy have that vision and his carvings and finally figuring out we're having a monster versus mech event, that was phenomenal. And I love that. It wasn't one of those things where it's like, oh, well, this is locked behind this and you have to force yourself to grind the game over and over and over again. No, it was something nice and easy. And while there have been little things like that Fortnite used to do, and I loved all of that, fort bites were probably one of the greatest things. Like, when I'm talking about like little challenges like Straw's talking about, that's probably the best way they've ever done it. The best part about it, it was optional. It didn't matter. Like, you could still unlock your battle pass, but it was just this little extra thing for you to do, and it probably brought a lot of people onto the game. On top of that, how much fun was it every day when everybody was landing in the same spot trying to click that fort bite and everybody was killing each other? I completely agree with that hot take, and I actually think that a lot of people would also agree with that. It's just something that's forgotten, honestly. I forgot about it as well, and now I'm regretting it because I just made the complete guide to fixing Fortnite in 2025 again, and I should have mentioned that. That was a phenomenal hot take, guys, but let's hear what LitC has to say.
Hey, name's LitC, your favorite yappin' yapper. And get this, Old Man Jenkins over here asked me on my hottest Fortnite take. Can you believe it? Well, it's actually quite simple, really, if I had to answer it. Fortnite never had a bad season. Again, in my opinion, every single season of Fortnite is redeemable in its own way. Fortnite seasons that are loved for genuinely being incredible, and even the Fortnite seasons that see a lot more hate online, all have their own redeemable values in some sort of way. For example, Fortnite Wilds, despite being hated for so many different reasons, such as the map or the wild biome, it brought in a lot of fun gimmicks, such as the temple break-in gimmicks, where you had to sacrifice legendary or epic items to get into these awesome temples and kind of raid it like Indiana Jones. Not to mention, Wilds also added my favorite two weapons of all time to Fortnite, that being the explosive repeater rifle and the mammoth pistol. Oh, the mammoth pistol is so good. Fortnite Wrecked far and away has the most fun mobility in the entire game. The infinite Nitro medallion, Nitro itself, and the Nitro fist, along with the Magneto gloves, to the point where you're just soaring through the air. Not to mention the fast as all heck cars. Oh my gosh, I could talk about how incredible Wrecked is all day, and that's an entirely different hot take in of it itself. Primal found the perfect substitute for snipers using customizable bows and the beautiful landmarks like the spire. Like, the shockwave bow is one of the most fun long-range items of all time, in my opinion. Heck, even my least favorite season of all time at least is alright, in my opinion. And no, you don't get to know what that season is yet, because I plan to make a video about it on my own. Point is, in my opinion, a lot of Fortnite players throw way too much shade at the game and its developers during some of these lesser-liked seasons, whether it's because they don't like how Epic is experimenting, or they're being like competitive players and claiming Fortnite should play like one specific playstyle forever. Fortnite just has a base gameplay loop that is super enjoyable, to the point where it could be difficult for you to twist that formula so much that it stops being fun, especially since the Epic Games developers never have the intention to ruin the game for anybody. Why would they? But hey, if you think that's a hot take, maybe you should take a look at my video talking about how competitive players are ruining Fortnite for everyone, even if it's kind of an old video by now. Or you could see Old Man Clinnert's video about which characters in Fortnite should hope date, ranked by a tier list. Anyways, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you to Clinert for letting me be a part. Until next time, stay lit, and I'll see y'all later.